The day is the most basic unit of time that people see and experience in their life. Every day can seem the same as people follow a set routine from one day to the next, but each day can be looked at as unique when people realize that there is only one of that particular day in the course of their whole lives. Between commonality and particularity, there is typicality. Situation 1. The United States is an automobile society. No matter what your mode of transportation, you become a part of the traffic flow. While operating a vehicle, a driver turns into an active player in the arena of car versus car versus pedestrian, and pedestrian versus pedestrian interactions. The particular. Ali Baba drives his daughter to school every morning. In order to get her there 10 minutes before the bell rings at 8 a.m., he needs to leave home no later than 7:15 a.m. On this particular day, he pulled out of his driveway at 7:13 a.m. First, at a three-way stop, he was forced to yield to a delivery truck that had entered the intersection a few moments after he did, costing him half a minute delay in movement. Second, when he entered the freeway from the carpool lane, a driver who was supposed to have stopped behind the red light in the non-carpool lane overtook him, causing him to slam on his brakes and raise his heart rate. Third, when he was about to move into the first lane on the freeway, three large trucks traveling one after another warded him off. Since he couldn't get into the first lane in time, he missed the entry to the carpool lane where he could have moved 5 to 7 minutes faster. Seventh, Ali Baba had to drive behind a string of slow drivers when he changed into another main road, and by the time he was close enough, he found that it was an illegally parked car that had caused the slowdown. Finally, on the road to his child's school, he was forced to stop twice, once for a car backing out of a private driveway to move ahead of him, and again for a car blocking one-third of his way to turn left onto the other side of the road. With all these hassles, Ali Baba arrived at his child's school at 8:20, about 30 minutes later than he had planned for. After he dropped her off, he sped off to his doctor's appointment, but since he was 30 minutes late, he had to reschedule. The victim. The effect of discrimination does not necessarily translate to victimization. At each of the 8 episodes, Ali Baba can clearly be classified as the victim. In each episode, he had to endure something unfavorable. With focus on each episode, there was either a loss of time, deprivation of privileges, damage to the vehicle, nerve pressure, bodily injury, or a combination thereof. From a long-term point of view, these incidents could become a part of a serious health problem for Ali Baba. Naturally, Ali Baba does not wonder about the ramifications of these incidents could have over his life. If these incidents had not all happened so close together, he would have dismissed them, but since they did, he becomes self-aware of his victimization. Another factor that contributed to his self-awareness is that his daughter was also negatively impacted by the morning's events. When the events of victimization spill over and affect surrounding people, the victim becomes more aware of the victimization. On a broader spectrum, Ali Baba could even sympathize with the other drivers commuting alongside him that day, because for every incident that he encountered, there was a line of drivers behind him facing similar turmoils.
Not all negative actions in the traffic arena are discriminators, because some drivers might commit someone not intending improvement. So charity is likely to think that no one is going to get hurt. Since the driver has a vehicle, he or she feels like being created in a way no consequence of the driver. So it feels like having less discriminating when performing a slick action that is disadvantage for the other side. Some discriminator can be done without attention. For example, having a truck backing up without being cautious. Others can almost cause a collision. When drivers react to discrimination, they
Alright guys, it's time to pack up.
to get autism, hunger, range, or be compromised with others. Unfortunately, discrimination to violent confrontation related to violence. Although compromise will lay others to be in trafficking, others just are part of trafficking is a way to meet in the public transportation. Others just continue to the usage of traffic and in driving. As a system level discrimination in the traffic arena can be reduced without proportional transportation has mutual respect of the general public and the traffic force. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you and have a great day.
Hi, my name is Alicia Briscoe, and I will be covering situation number 2, the particular and the discriminator. A lunch break is important for people who are working. Some people actually eat food and prepare for the rest of the day, while others run errands or socialize. The particular. Ali Baba is on his lunch break at noon exactly and has a few errands to run, like going to the post office and to the bank. The post office and the bank took 50 minutes from his hour break due to long lines and few workers at the institutions. With 10 minutes left, Ali Baba bought a simple sandwich and thought he would have enough time to eat it, but just as he was about to take a bite, he received a phone call and was on the phone for the rest of the time. He then had to run to an emergency meeting and did not get to eat his sandwich. The discriminator. Many institutions send their employees to lunch at the same time, causing there to be some tension between different institutions. This means there are fewer people working at lunch and longer lines, which Shaw calls discrimination. This causes more stress and more people to be worried that they aren't going to make it back to work in time. This causes more discrimination between workplaces and leads to people calling out sick or being late to work to complete simple tasks like going to the bank or post office. Wanting a customer to have the best experience when they walk in by asking about their personal lives or wanting them to know about all the opportunities open to them is great, but when the institution has few workers and long lines, it is not convenient. The discriminator continued. With all this being said, it is not just the worker who will cause discrimination or who can cause discrimination against the customer, but other customers in the institution as well. When Ali Baba was in line at the post office, one customer was talking about her personal life with the worker, causing the line to be held up. Also, when he went into the bank after the post office, there was a customer there that kept changing her mind on what she wanted to do and did not know if she wanted help or not, which also held up the line. All of this in turn causes long lines and causes discrimination.
Situation 2. The victim. Field of customer. A discriminatory or victimizing act is likely to refer to a particular customer. Victims can be general versus specific and direct versus indirect. In the process of dealing with a customer, agent is likely to look unfavorable. Indirect victims have to wait longer for services, likely to blame both a troublemaker customer. Alibaba was a direct victim because he bore all the effects agents unexplained, inexcusable walk away from service. General victims are all the customers waiting in line in the sense that anyone could fall into trap as well. The compromise. Alibaba made a series of compromises with individual agents, agencies, and services as a whole throughout his lunch break. Taking into account cost, quality, reliability, and or other relevant factors, one may not only compromise on time, convenience, or access. The universal. Service is an integral part of contemporary life. It is common that one has to wait in line for service, both commercial and non-commercial, both public and private, or both small and large agencies. Queuing for service, one may feel discriminated against a particular customer service agent if the star is technically incompetent. In the service line, one may also feel discriminated by one's fellow customer. As a part of the general response, people may boycott here, develop here unfavorable opinions about the office, or even make public protests against an entire corporate agency.
Situation 3. People work hard in their everyday life, and that is why they need vacations, hobbies, and other breaks to refresh themselves. Going to concerts, watching sports games, and attending social events can serve as a distraction for job stress. Doing other things than just work also helps in the spiritual lifting and get an enrichment of life overall. The particular. Alibaba planned and bought tickets so that he and his family can attend an event by a famous performance troupe that was on tour at the time. It was supposed to be a special day. With this arrangement made ahead of time, he requested for half a day off of work, and his wife requested the whole day off without pay to attend the show. The day has come, and since the wife has the whole day off, she first went to the beauty salon to get her hair done, then picked up their daughter from school. Then they met with Alibaba in his workplace. After, they waited about an hour for their son to come abroad from a local college. Finally, they were on their way to the show. After a long drive through the metropolitan traffic, the family finally arrives, and the show is expected to start at 6:30 p.m. It was until 6:45 p.m. that a host comes out and announces, "The two key performers of the troupe are not able to appear tonight due to an unpreventable event." Alibaba and his family stayed to watch the show they planned for months and regretted missing the core of the show for a long time afterward. The discriminator. There were both primary and secondary perpetrators in this incident. The primary perpetrators were the two major performers who didn't show up on stage. Having essential roles, they should make the most of their effort to fulfill their obligations. In order to do this, they should stay healthy. Eat what they are supposed to eat, avoiding any substances that may have a negative outcome. 2. Should be active. Practice what they need to practice and stay away from exercises that may affect their performance. 3. They should remain available, follow every rule the troupe is supposed to follow, and always be on time. On a world tour, members of the troupe should be more cautious about their upcoming events to avoid any problems with themselves and their fans. The second perpetrators are the troupe and the local organizer of the show. The troupe should have rules for its members and keep close contact with each of their performers. They should always have a backup plan in case they run into complications. In the unlikely event, it avoids all possible options for keeping a scheduled performance. The local organizer, on the other hand, should stay on top of everything surrounding the show. It needs to keep pressure and provide support for the troupe so that the latter delivers what it promises to do in the locale. He must also take actions if it is notified of any change in the program. For example, the organizer could have given a full refund to the people that didn't want to stay and watch the show without the two major performers. This avoids any chaos and disappointment.
Alibaba and family were victimized financially. They decided to take a half day and her the whole day just to go out and have some fun. When getting to the venue, they realized that the fast food was highly priced, which they could have gotten it way cheaper. She realized if she would have just gone to the salon, she would not have spent as much money as she believed she was going to spend. The loss right here that took place was a cultural conception because as of new general era now, everyone seems to be, oh, they want to go out and have some fun, but don't think about the money wise or how they're financially stable or not. They expected to see lead actors, but only a few came on to the venue, which only were two of them, which made them like all that money they paid for these tickets just to see two actors. It was kind of a loss for them, and they kind of wanted to receive a refund because It was upsetting that they went and had the time to buy these tickets, and it's just having to make time to going to this event just because these actors are going to come on, and they don't come on, it kinds of being upsetting for them. Nowadays, the universe takes a big part and a big significant because many of us want to go to art concerts, sports, and just basic concerts, going to go see famous people, going to events. You make the time and effort to go watch these performances. The audience is always wanting to have fun and have public satisfaction. But when in this case that if you're going to watch some lead people and they don't show up, it's kind of misfortune because many families get out of their way just to go see these things, make time, which can result in stressing events. Sometimes this affects people because you have one way of seeing things, and then when you get to the place, you see that it's a whole way different perspective. Maybe it's expensive, maybe it's cheap, it can be from fun to boring. It all depends the situation you're in. Pretty much everyone is victimized in various different ways and different events. It all depends how you see it or take it. The troupe, the organizers, and the audience are forced by circumstances of lead performance. With the two major players and the troops would end up scrambled to recognize the reputation. This which means the reputation is that if you know about something, you're gonna and you had fun, you're gonna let people know about it and make them come back. If you don't have a good time, now you're gonna have a bad thing to say about this event and you're not gonna want to recommend it. There's a financial intensive that can cause an inner intention because of your I'll maybe go on to this event on a budget and realize that when you get to the venue it's way more price. You get to be like, do I really want to spend all this money here? And then financial concessions are according to contract terms and confrontational views. Local organizers simply cannot terminate contract with the tour, which work compromisely with the closer corrupt corporation with troop to manage the impact of the change. The true realignment of lost time and unfair treatment. When people feel this, the unfair treatment was because they didn't have as much fun. They want a refund because they didn't show up people that weren't going to show up. Only two people showed up out of the five. Say people are going because they want to go see these people. In another case, after all this happens, the venue sends out an apology or they want to reimburse you. They want to give you some type of benefit in order for you not to feel disappointed.
In the contemporary world, there are forums for the general public to voice their concerns on a specific matter. In a hypothetical, Ali Baba wants to give his insight and research on a topic held dear to him at a community meeting. Once at the meeting, Ali Baba proceeds to raise his hand to speak, but seems to be frequently overlooked by the moderator. This continues until others in the audience begin to notice as well, and an unspoken signal is given by the audience to pick Ali Baba next. When chosen, Ali Baba begins to present his position in an eloquent manner that seems to be interesting to the listeners. The moderator then cuts Ali Baba's time short and refuses to grant him more, even though exceptions had been made in other circumstances, when their arguments were arguably less provocative. The moderator was a discriminator to Ali Baba. As someone whose job it is to keep the community meeting fair and flowing, the moderator continuously discriminated against Ali Baba and his right to speak. This is an example of a type of person that can be found in the real world. People like this will benefit some while discriminating against others due to predisposed beliefs. For example, one can favor colleagues, personal friends, or those who share similar beliefs, while discriminating against those for having a different religion or race, different job, or just not sharing the same beliefs. Ali Baba was a victim, and he himself could identify that the moderator was avoiding selecting him to speak. The rest of the audience was also aware and discomforted by the discrimination against Ali Baba. This discrimination gave Ali Baba mental stress, self-pity, and an overall feeling of insecurity. Having his turn to speak cut short, Ali Baba's stance wasn't fully realized by the audience, creating a false representation of Ali Baba's view. Ali Baba was victimized supposedly for his ethnicity, though this cannot be said for certain. This uncertainty will linger in his mind for an indiscernible amount of time.
The compromise. Ali Baba clearly understood he was a victim, continuously being ignored by the moderator and not readily given the opportunity to voice his opinion. Ali Baba could have stood in protest and defiantly voiced his opinions. Instead, however, he gained sympathy from the audience by conforming to the procedural format of the community forum and compliantly raising his hand each time the moderator sought for a new person to speak. By not abruptly speaking out of turn and initiating a possible protest against the format and procedures of the forum, everyone was able to focus on fundamental matters and content of the forum. Although the moderator could have used his full discretion in not allowing Ali Baba to speak, pressure from the audience ultimately forced the moderator to allow Ali Baba to speak his opinions. However, the moderator could have used his or her authority over granting the opportunity to speak by blocking people from participating in public discussion. Although, by intentionally denying a person's request to speak, the moderator may be seen as prejudiced by the audience, which may cause a lack of cooperation and order during public discussion. On the matter of time, Ali Baba could have defiantly continued his presentation after his time to speak was over. He could have ignored the moderator and continued speaking, or he could have firmly demanded more time rather than gently requesting more time. However, Ali Baba demonstrated conformity by courteously ending his speech after being denied more time. By his demeanor, Ali Baba could have possibly gained the interest of audience members who might seek further information regarding his unfinished presentation. The universal. Community forums and other discussion groups are common occasions where people communicate interests, express personal opinions, and gather input on opinions and policies regarding certain fundamental interests. A moderator is used to preside over the occasion and maintain order while holding power over the audience. On one hand, a moderator may be neutral, giving everyone fair opportunities to speak and voice their opinions and concerns. On the other hand, the moderator can be discriminatory over a certain individual, group, or certain points of view while advocating, promoting, and being biased over conflicting views. Given the opportunity to speak in front of an audience may build confidence, expressive habits, or develop outreaching career habits for certain individuals. However, being denied the opportunity to speak can cause a sense of anxiety, fear of public speaking, or reluctance, making an individual passive while silencing personal opinions. When expressed correctly, ideologies can create immediate attention and popularity over a certain population or group. However, when ideologies are suppressed, creative and innovative ideas fail to be properly conveyed, which causes a lack of attention and which may cause an absence of potential contributions to social welfare. Situation 5. Stress is experienced through various magnitudes in life. While individuals may manage stress at its core, they may allow for displacement of stress to overflow into other aspects of their life. The particular. Ali Baba had an eventful day filled with constant negative events, ultimately generating immense stress over his daily life. In the morning, Ali Baba dropped his daughter off at school only minutes prior to the beginning of her homeroom. While rushing to work, he almost collided with a car from behind. Although he managed to avoid the collision, the event was nerve-breaking. At work, Ali Baba was involved in a dispute with one of his co-workers. Although he did not intend to inform his supervisor, the supervisor still managed to take notice of the event. Although Ali Baba managed to resolve the dispute in his favor, his supervisor was unhappy with the whole issue. Later in the afternoon, Ali Baba received a call informing him that one of his project proposals that he worked very hard on may not pass an administrative decision. On his way home, Ali Baba heard on the radio that the stock market had plunged for the day. Upon checking two of his stocks that he had in a brokerage account, he wished he would have sold them a few days prior, at which time they reached their high marks in trading. Alibaba arrived home 30 minutes later than usual. Upon arriving, he ignored his wife's greeting while expressing an angry facial expression. A few moments later at the dinner table, Alibaba finally erupted and allowed for the stressful events that had been building up throughout the day overcome him, and he yelled at his wife for cooking more food than needed. The discriminator. Although Alibaba may have fallen victim to unfair treatment throughout the day, he was a clear discriminator in regards to what he did to his wife. Upon arriving home late, Alibaba should have explained to his wife the circumstances which contributed to his tardiness. Although he understood his wife was worried about his late arrival, Alibaba remained unsympathetic when greeted by his wife. Further, he made his wife feel as if she was the cause of his behavior. Alibaba had reason to show a sense of appreciation and gratitude in front of his wife and daughter who had dinner ready. However, in his discriminatory act, Alibaba hurt and scared his loved ones, causing unnecessary problems and tension.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Calzada. I'm going to be discussing Section 5, the victim. Victimization is created when the effect of discrimination creates severity, leaving one self-conscious with a sense of unfairness and injustice. On a typical day, one might not be aware of discrimination due to one's self-awareness of natural occurring misfortunes. As we read on a typical day, we learn that Alibaba is your average parent who happens to be having a bad day. As he begins his day in situation 4 by running late to drop his daughter off at school, he is forced with encounters by numerous offsets that will affect his day and those closer to him. An extra effort is created just to get back on a normal schedule and continue the day. Alibaba happened to be victimized by the enormous amount of traffic that was maintained in the traffic arena. Alibaba then decided to put up with this unfortunate experience without any open reaction, leading him to believe that it is just a natural occurring misfortune that happens to be on this typical morning. As his day proceeds, he is soon to return home, leaving his wife as the victim. Alibaba's wife has prepared a healthy, hearty dinner for him, to which he was late to. The anxiety alone left her victimized as she waited. Upon arrival, Alibaba immediately begins by releasing his frustrations on his wife. Alibaba's wife breaks down into tears as the repercussions of Alibaba's day have now carried on to those of his wife. This will not be the only person that is affected by Alibaba's actions. Without notice, Alibaba indirectly hurts his daughter, leaving her to be the next victim. In fear of her parents' argument, she finishes her dinner and quickly rushes to her room. Not only was the concentration level impossible to obtain at this point, but she also needed help on her homework and was in fear of asking either parent. In result of this, she was left with having uncompleted homework. Now we're going to go on to the compromise. Although Alibaba's day was ruined by many offsets leading him to ruin his day by those closest to him, there were still many compromises that were made by all three parties. That was Alibaba, his wife, and his daughter. Alibaba's wife played a huge role in diffusing his anger. Immediately, she recognized that his frustration was work-related and remained unresponsive. She had the option to talk back and explain herself, which could have been fuel to her husband's anger. By her choosing the proper tactic, she immediately eliminated any verbal bombardment that she would have received from her husband. By her only uttering a few words, she allowed her husband to release most of his rage instead of offering him complete avoidance, which could have been more fuel to the fire. So it could have upset his anger. Not only did his wife play a huge role in the compromise, but so did his daughter. His daughter could have easily taken sides and defended the mother, making the situation a lot worse. This could have left Alibaba feeling isolated in his own home, feeling that not even at home can he be at ease. Alibaba, although was the one initiating the problem, that was still compromised on his behalf. He let it be known to his wife by not only attacking her character, that it is only frustration from work and not a personal issue that was being maintained. Now we're going to go on by discussing the universe. As we move into the section called the universe, we learn that the displacement is one of the most common defense mechanisms used by those dealing with anxiety in their life. One is more than likely to find non-threatened targets to vent one's frustration on. This usually happens to a friend, relative, loved one, or an innocent bystander could become involved in any of these situations just by being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Easy targets are looked upon for expressive output. This is a display of what is known as a random form of displacement. One focusing on a more disruptive approach, such as a habitual displacement, on the other hand, would focus on using the same target every time one feels the need to relieve anxiety. And thank you, that is the end of section 5.